Hey everybody, it's Ben in Beta, and tonight we're trying something different. We're actually going live on a live stream, something we have not done before,
You're
but we
telling me
need to
this is
practice.
happening now.
Yeah, it's happening right now. Exactly.
All right.
We need to practice a little bit because we have a little bit of an announcement for Friday night that we want to talk about, but we're going to let you have to stay on and actually find out what that is. If anybody actually ends up watching whatsoever. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. So
I love the
yeah,
confidence. I love the confidence.
I know. How's it going for you? What's up?
I mean, yeah, just kind of looking at the different material, or not material, but the different equipment that I still need to pick up now that I'm not going to have the Jeep reservation through Peak Overlanders anymore. So I've been looking at chairs, tables, and kind of kitchen goods. But life happens, and expenses happen as well. And my daughter has a car that she loves that seems to really like going to the service center recently. So money's tight, as is just in general.
I understand. I think we'll definitely have to get more into that, like some
That
of those that
experience,
in
yeah.
the future for sure. But on today's episode, I wanted to talk about a few different things. So first, the tent episode last week got quite a few views. Actually, I'm pretty impressed. I mean, for us, it's not bad, and maybe it'll continue to grow. We also had a few people who commented on our videos from last week, so I think that's great. And then in the meantime, I was able to put out a video as well on the tent, on our tent experience. I think this is the wrong screen. Here we go. On our tent experience at 4x4 Colorado, which was super cool. 100% recommend checking them out. They were just fantastic. They did a great job, and this was a fun video to make. And the best part really is just in here, just trying to set up and take down the tent, which I thought was pretty funny. And so hopefully that goes better in the future, but who knows? I mean, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, great video. I think went pretty good. I was impressed with it. Misty liked it too, so check it out if you haven't. And then go check out our other casts as well. So from the past, yeah. Anyway, did you get a chance to watch this? Did you?
I did, yeah. I couldn't tell exactly how many different rooftop tents you looked at, but it was nice to see Misty getting some airtime.
It was. I mean, you need that opposite opinion. I think it's important. And yeah, you can see right here. Here she is doing the old struggle bus to get it down. And I'm guessing then when we get the actual production unit, it'll be a little bit better and it'll break in over time. Because I did, I stuck your video in here too, where you were opening your tent,
Right.
and it was
First
a little
time,
stiff opening there too.
using struts there.
Yep. So
I mean, the thing was pretty much like vacuum sealed when I opened it. Like if I didn't, if I'd have just blown some air into it or something, it probably would have opened a lot faster.
yeah, makes sense. So anyway, uh, definitely check out the channel for those things and the other videos that are out there. I already have 61 videos in less than a year. That's kind of crazy. But today's episode is about something different. So as I've said in the channel before, I had plans to purchase a 24 Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-Road. Really, we wanted the Trail Hunter model, but that wasn't going to happen for us because it was just honestly just too expensive. And we were hoping that was going to come in at about $57,000. That had the payload, I think, that we were looking for, plus was already kitted out for overlanding with bigger tires, bigger suspension, like a built-out suspension, disconnected sway bar. Everything was on that thing. And so we were hoping it was going to be about $57,000. That was like the max we would pay for a vehicle. And unfortunately, the TRD Off-Road is about that much before the hybrid engine and all the goodies that come with it. So we elected to go with the TRD Off-Road. I did drive one. I have a video up on that, and it drives amazingly well. It's a very nice vehicle. So that's great. That was one of the first ones that came out in the Colorado Springs area. Mine has been built. It made its way to LA. I think I talked about that in the last episode. And then it made its way to Denver. But there's a problem. Just a tiny one.
so close.
So close. And the problem is, um, 95% of Tacomas are on a QC hold or quality control hold right now. And it's sort of an indefinite amount of time. Some people have been given like a 45-day window. So mine was supposed to be delivered next week. No idea how long it's going to take. We don't know what's wrong. Toyota's not going to share any of that information. They just, when these things happen, they don't get shared at all. In fact, I think you mentioned that in here. But there's like 4,800 or something like that Toyota Tacomas that are on the QC hold, according to Steve Clifford. And Steve is he actually works at a Toyota dealership. He's worked there for the last 30 years as like a customer success person. And he said he's never seen anything like this before. He's never seen this amount of vehicles be held all at once, all at one time. So he has no idea what's going on. So there's some issue. There's been a few other things. There's one person reported on an SR5, they got a tiny little donut spare. And on the website, it said that you got a full-size spare. Now, the Toyota has since changed that. Tim at Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk had kind of emailed Toyota and said, hey, what's the story with this? And he said, we've changed our marketing on the website now. It's no longer a full-size spare. And that's also true.
They did go with the donut. Okay.
Yeah. So, but they're going to give him a new, they decided to give that person because he was expecting it. And they told him that, it said that's what he was going to get. They're going to give him a new tire, which is cool. But yeah, and the TRD Off-Road, which is an off-road model, does have a spare that's the size, it is full-sized, but it says temporary on it. So I would be a little concerned about having to put that on, in the middle of the backcountry in Colorado, to be honest with you. So, who knows? But the biggest deal here is that this is on QC hold, and I don't know for how long. Not that it's a big deal. It's not like we need a truck right now, but it started making me think. That's never good. If I'm waiting for something, if I make a decision and I have to think, it's definitely a problem. Tim is actually on today, so we can actually we can call out his comment. There he is. He said, "Thanks for the shout out. Thanks for watching, Tim. I appreciate it." So
I mean, you pretty much found this out about the QC issue, and like what, all of 30 minutes later, you were on the phone with me. And he's like, "Dude, I don't know. Should I look at something else? I don't know."
Yeah.
I currently have time to look at more stuff now.
Yes, and it did stem from a few things. So the QC hold made me stop and think, because like I got some time now. But you and I put together this cool CODA sheet to kind of figure out how much payload we had and what we could fit in our vehicles without kind of going over. And the TRD Off-Road has a 1,200 pound payload. Your Jeep Wrangler has an 880 pound payload. And so I know most of my things because I purchased most of those things already. And so I was able to kind of fill this out, and we can decide what we're taking, what we're not, who's going along, that kind of thing. But if I'm kind of fully loaded, I'm at like 100 pounds of payload, and that is before I've put any rock rails on, which I've looked around at those. They're 60 pounds per side, 50 pounds, 60 pounds per side. And if I put any underbody protection, that's probably another 100 pounds, I would guess, from front to back. Now, the Toyota, the TRD Off-Road does come with like a composite skid plates. And so it's better than nothing. And maybe that's where I'm going to have to start, to be honest. And that was a recommendation, I think, as well, from Tim and a couple of other people on the forums at Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk forums. So that made me think. I was like, man, this is getting really close. And so when I started thinking about that, I don't know how or why, but the Bronco just popped into my brain. I saw one somewhere and I was like, man, that thing's already built out. It's already got 35-inch tires. It already has the suspension. It has the full-size actual real spare. It has a sway bar disconnect, which I'm not going to get on mine. So maybe I should check this out. And I messaged you, and your response was,
give it a try, man. Like, honestly, like if it wasn't for the fact that I found the Jeep Wrangler that I did, I was going to start looking at the Broncos myself, just because it's basically Ford's take on what the Jeep Wrangler is. And it's got so much room, so much space inside, and it's already built out, like you said, to be able to do things. But I mean, the one thing that's the one big difference between you and I right now is the fact that you kind of figured out overlanding beforehand, and now you're trying to find a vehicle that will work for what you want to do. Whereas I picked up my Jeep, still love it, do not regret it whatsoever, even though you laughed at me for the 880 a little bit there, just a little bit. But but honestly, I didn't find out about overlanding until after the fact. I just figured that I would use the Jeep as kind of a daily driver during the week, and then on the weekends I could go camping. Easily pull my boat. That it checked all the boxes for what I was doing at the time and what I expected to do in the future. So now that I'm looking into overlanding, I was okay. Well, now we got to start looking at how much equipment I need, what it's going to cost me, and what it's going to weigh once it's all in there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you start thinking about those things, my my thought process here is there's a lot of people who probably way overloaded under vehicles when they're heading out to go out either off-roading and especially overlanding. So it's why you see people adding, suspensions and things like that. And
Or
I
even
think some of
pulling
those
like
things
out
could
the
go ahead.
trailers and whatnot. Like
Yeah,
people,
yeah, exactly. The trailer. I mean, a trailer is a good way to go, and it's something I could do, right? Like I could just pull a trailer behind, but now you've got this trailer you're trying to do in switchbacks and side of a mountain, and it may not be good either. Um, yeah, 100%.
yeah.
But your first reply was like, "Wait, what?" That was literally your reply. You were like,
Boy,
"You
okay, I mean, you were
maybe just
talking
listen
about
already."
there was a small QC problem. Like, okay, if it's just a small problem, like why all of a sudden are you changing gears like Chicken Little's freaking out here? And but I don't know. We got on the phone and we were talking about it and kind of talked about the pros and cons between sticking with the Tacoma and going with the Bronco. And I told you right away that you're not going to like the soft top that comes with it. You're going to want a hard top right away, um, uh, just for the just so it's quieter when you're driving and better insulated. Plus, you got the added support, that you would need for the rooftop tent. We even talked about the fact that you basically have to rethink how you're setting up your entire overlanding um, vehicle, because now you're not going to have the kind of the more aerodynamic option with the lower tent that doesn't go as high as the cab or only goes as high as the cab. Now you're going to have this 10-inch wind block sitting on top of your vehicle, and that's going to change things completely. Um, but I mean, I was all for you absolutely trying it out, and if you loved it, great. If you didn't, understood that too, because I mean, we've had different histories when it comes to vehicles for sure. You sound muted right now, Ben, as in I don't hear your voice at all.
That is correct.
There you go.
So my experience with vehicles really has been since bought mostly new vehicles since I was in college. Realistically, I started with like a Saturn and have moved up from there on many different vehicles, but I always knew some of them at the beginning they were more basic manual, no power windows, no nothing. But by the time we got to like 2003, so we had a Ranger actually in 2001, 2002, and then when the lease was up on the raise, that we got a Honda Pilot. But we loved that truck; it was great. We had that when we were in Eau Claire. Um, but that's the last time we had a pickup truck. And since then, it's all been SUVs and cars. So it's been kind of crazy. Like we've had mostly like even that first Honda that we got, the Pilot, that was that was 100% like the highest trim, everything you could get in that vehicle. It was leather. It was decked out. And since that time, pretty much all of our vehicles have been that way. Heated seats, that kind of stuff. So we gotten pretty used to it. And I've gotten really used to the safety features. I love lane centering. I love, adaptive cruise, blind spot monitoring, all that kind of stuff. Anything that can save my life, I'm 100% for that. And I also like the bigger screens. The 360-degree cameras, even in the Tucson, have been super helpful, not just for parking, but even when we were out overlanding this last year. So those are all things that I was like, those are things I have to have in my vehicle because it's our daily driver plus it's our overlanding vehicle. If this had just been only an overlanding vehicle, the Bronco probably would have been a great choice. It very likely could have went that way, or a used truck with less stuff on it, which is probably better for overlanding because it's going to get scratched, it's going to get beat up, almost for sure. But we really want to try to stick to one vehicle, so it kind of had to meet all those things. But you're a little bit different.
Yeah. So I would say very different. I mean, pretty much from since high school. I was I'm gonna say lucky enough to have an older brother that is a master mechanic for Chrysler, Jeep, and Dodge, and so I'd always be able to get my hands on a car that had a salvage title or something along that lines that could be rebuilt, and I'd get myself a mid-sized car pretty much every time, um, and I would drive that until it didn't drive anymore, and then I would find the next one through my brother, and that was kind of the rinse and repeat that I did for many, many, many years. So for me, jumping into the Jeep finally was my splurge. This was my moment. You know,
And
this
it
was the
should be.
vehicle. This was
It
the
should be.
vehicle that I've been dreaming to get. This is the vehicle I finally got and was super excited about it. Whereas you kind of took the Bronco for a ride again, Ford's version of the Jeep, and you were like, this doesn't exactly ride the way I want it to. You
Yeah,
had a
I
different
mean,
set of expectations.
it was different. Like again, like having all the it was clearly very capable off road. Like even in a little bit that I drove it, it was like 20 minutes or something like that. But I like the tech, so you can see the screen here. Tech was great, wireless Android Auto CarPlay. Actually, I've never had that. That's one feature all the vehicles I've had have never had the wireless version of that, so that was very nice. And like the on road, like on the highway manners, like steering that kind of thing, it was great. It was really good. This had KO2s, by the way, so it has different wheels, and then KO2s, and that's not comes with the normal Bronco Wild Track. So it could have been some of the things I have comments on could be just because of that. They were also like way worn down. There wasn't much left. It's like 30,000 miles on here, so but there was not much tread left on those tires. And one of the tires was like 20 psi, and the other ones were like 40. And I was like, "Is this a problem?" They're like, "Nah, you're fine. Go." I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." So my impressions just were like, it doesn't have lane centering. That's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is a nice feature, especially for we're going to be planning to go on really long trips. And if we're going to go for, extraordinarily long trips, like, a couple thousand miles, which I do fairly often driving back home, that kind of thing, those types of things just really reduce driver fatigue. And people who have never had that before just don't understand how great those features are. It's like once you get heated seats or once you get, whatever it is, Android Auto for the first time, you're like, yeah, I'm never going to live without that. That's amazing, right? So
Yeah.
maybe the lesson is don't ever buy any of that stuff. You don't have to worry about it. But what really
Sometimes you got
kind
to
of
treat yourself.
it is true, and we've been lucky enough to be able to do that. Not everybody is, but we've been lucky enough to do that, and it's been good.
No, like Jackie drives Hyundai Palisade, and it's got all of some of those features as well, where it's got the surround, the 360 camera. It's got the lane assist, along with the adaptive cruise control. And I'm not gonna lie, like it would be nice to have the adaptive control, the adaptive cruise control and the 360 degree camera at the very least in my Jeep, which obviously it doesn't. Um, but those two features out of the three, I think I would definitely benefit the most from in like a potentially a future vehicle for
Yeah,
sure.
that makes sense. Yeah, and this had those things. So again, just the general driving dynamics were quite good. What was kind of less awesome for me was when I opened up the back. I didn't love the swing out tailgate was fine, and it even had like a tray in the back. But the soft top was bad in several different ways. One was like just trying to open up the back because it doesn't have a door on the back on the top. It actually like kind of folds back in on itself. It wasn't great. Now you can fix that with a hard top 100%, so that can be fixed. Um, but I didn't love the swing out gate. It wasn't awesome. It was okay though.
Well, I mean,
Um,
the soft top on the back is basically just like a tent flap that doesn't have a zipper.
yeah, exactly. And what that led to was a ridiculously loud interior when you're riding. And it was like 30, 40 mile an hour winds that day. So I definitely got like, what's the worst case scenario for this vehicle? And it's funny because the soft top above you, not loud, but in the back where the windows are plastic, it was super loud. And my wife has, I don't know what you call it, supersonic bat hearing. So
We'll just call it
she does not
sensitive
like
hearing.
loud anything. So I was like, yep, this isn't going to work. Now, again, you can put the hard top on, but I've like pretty much everybody says the soft top is better than the hard top in the Bronco because there's been a lot of different quality issues with it, or just like almost everybody says that, which I think is interesting. From what I've read in comments and videos, like soft top's the way to go. You just have to put up with the noise. So we would probably have to put up with the noise. But worse than that, because that's solvable, we can put a hard top on, was the ride. The ride quality, just like going over the, the ruts basically in the road, because that's how Colorado is for the freezing and thawing. Everybody complains about the roads, but I've lived in 3 different states now, and these are by far the worst. I took it on the same drive. I took it on the Tacoma, the Colorado, the Frontier, the GMC Canyon, and the Ranger. So it was the worst of all of those ride wise. It was very rough. And again, it could have been that maybe they put in, I didn't look super close. Maybe it was an aftermarket suspension. I don't know. But some people said the on-road mannerisms are really good. And other people said actually the ride's pretty rough. And I would agree. For me, the ride was rough compared to what I had, what I'm used to. And that right there just said, you know what, the Tacoma is probably the right way to go for me. We'll figure out the payload piece later on. I don't know what options there are to increase payload because, again, I'm kind of new at all this stuff. I know you can, if you're going to do that, you would want bigger brakes, probably an upgraded suspension, coils, that kind of stuff that can handle more weight. But also the truck is only rated for 1,200 pounds. So if you go over that rating, you're really illegal. And that's a problem too. And I don't, not that I don't think people are ever going to like, we're putting you on the scale to check you or anything like that. But if you're in an accident, you can be at fault, and then that sucks. So we'll see. I think we can keep it under the 1,200 pounds, but it'll be like 1,196 or something like that. But we'll see. And then, like I said, we can always do a trailer someday if we think we need to do that. And part of the problem is we chose the tent we really wanted, and that was that Alto Mini, and that one just happens to be 230 pounds. So,
but it's got the rugged exterior that's needed for what you want to do. So it was a fair trade-off.
Exactly. It's gonna be great for sleeping, but it's heavy. And then I think what you brought up too, the fact that we can put the Tacoma inside of inside the garage, because we're gonna go with a mid-height rack. I think that's another big win. Our neighborhood's pretty safe, but people steal stuff all the time. So
right. And yeah, that was a big part of our conversation too. The fact that you'd have to be changing things up, and having the truck and being able to have it lower down within the bed of the truck there, that rooftop tent, being able to pull into the garage and just be settled and doing everything inside that you need to do as a definite benefit. I mean, that's why that was one of the reasons why I went with my tent. It's because it's only 7 inches thick when it's closed down. So I have that 2 inches of clearance with my garage now that I can just pull right into my garage, and then I can unpack everything. Or if I'm exhausted because it's been a long day, I can just drive inside, park it, and I'm good to go until I'm ready to go out there and take care of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that was my like sort of crisis moment. Should I go, get something else? I'm curious whether people think, if you're, whether you're watching live or later on, give us, drop some comments on what you think.
It was an interesting kind of like opportunistic panic.
It was. And I think, the other part was when we first started looking at these vehicles a year ago, you weren't getting a Bronco for less than, because it was the Broncos that I was looking at were the same price or less than the Tacoma we're going to buy. And they already had all these modifications on them. Like that was another piece of this. I wasn't buying something more expensive. I was buying something less expensive. And like a year ago, you weren't going to find anything used that was less expensive, than what we're paying for this Tacoma at this point, really. And so that was another change. It's like, oh, maybe I should look at used. And Misty would prefer if I bought used. I think in many ways, like you're gonna, even with a Tacoma, which really holds its value, you drive off the lot, you're going to lose a couple $1,000 as soon as that happens. So, but I still think, every time I go back and look at a Tacoma on, on a video or something like that, I'm like, yeah, this is the right choice, I think, for me. Now it's just a matter of like, do I do anything with it after I get it other than throw the tent on the back and go? And there are a couple options, right? So that leads me into our topic for Friday. But I want to, before we get there, see if you use anything else you want to talk about tonight.
No, I think I just kind of continue with the conversation just a little bit. The nice thing is, and the fact that you actually got to try out the Bronco, so you can check that off your list of like, okay, I've tried it. I know I still want to go with the Tacoma, so you can be more assured of the decision that you ended up making for the vehicle you're going to be using for all this stuff. So
Yeah, I think that's important. Like in forums, people have all kinds of opinions, right? Some of the things I was reading were like, 2.7 engines, garbage, and it's going to break down, and blah 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 blah. It might. Any car could break down. So, in the end, you got to go out there and look at and just determine what it is that you want. And driving things is the most important thing. Like I would never buy a vehicle I've never driven. Just wouldn't do it. So. Did I do that once? I might have done that once, maybe twice. I shouldn't say that. So now I'm lying. We did that with a Pilot because it wasn't out yet, which is the first year vehicle, but as a Honda, so I was like, what can go wrong with that? And I might have done that with the Audi as well. Although I think they had one on a dealership lot and we drove it first. So I'm actually pretty sure we drove that before we ordered it. I ordered it on my birthday. That was kind of fun, which is coming up next month.
there you
go. Yeah. So before we get to sort of signing off for the day, I do want to talk about one kind of fun little deal that we're going to be doing. Maybe I'll bring up this thing actually. So see what happens when I clicked on here. This is kind of weird. Okay. Well, let's share it out. Oh, why do you keep moving? Don't move. Here we go.
Because this is now the third software we're trying for this.
This is the third software we've been. Okay. Yes, exactly. But on Friday, I was talking with Tim at Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and I said, "Hey, do you want to come on? And one of our podcast things, and let's talk about, is the Tacoma good from his point of view? Is it a good decision? What does he think about payload? What does he think about tires? Some of those types of things." And his advice, and he asked me some questions when I posted the Bronco post in the forums, which is they're over here. You should join them if you haven't yet. Pretty cool stuff. Lots of great people in these forums. So I think I've had like one poor interaction the entire time. So it's been good with pretty much everybody. It's pretty awesome. And a lot of other forums is like every other post is an unhappy interaction, I would say. This is a good place. So I asked him if he wanted to come on, and he said yes. So we're going to talk about a few things around the Tacoma build out, that kind of thing. I wanted to ask him some questions about how he got where he is today. Like, what is his job like as a reviewer of cars? Like, that seems like a dream job, but is it really? Like, kind of interesting. And then Brian may have a few questions too, because I basically said, "Hey, Brian, we're going to do this on Friday." And Brian's like, "Okay,
sounds great. Let's do it. I'm in."
Yep. So yeah, join us on Friday, and you'll be able to ask questions too. Post them in the chat. We'll throw them over to Tim, and if you have questions for us, we're happy to answer those too. But we're knuckleheads. What do we know? So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a list of mistakes that I've made so far that hopefully I still have time to correct. But again, we keep talking about starting small, and then I'm talking about I'm going to be driving all the way to Colorado. Like, that's not a small. So I am starting small. There's a bunch of different campgrounds around that I plan on hitting up beforehand and just kind of getting things lined up and organized. And like I mentioned towards the beginning, just kind of trying to figure out different seating and tables, things like that would work best for nice and easily packed within the Jeep and taking up as little space as possible.
Yeah, and we've offered up some of the stuff that we are not going to be using in our build out too, to try out to see if you're like, I like it or don't like it, so you don't have to spend money and then go, oh, this sucks. So Yeah, I'm excited for you to come out here for that, but I'm excited for you to be able to go in Wisconsin. And then my plan is to drive the vehicle out in September as well, and we can eat up some trails out there. You know, like Wisconsin trails are so much different than they are here.
Yeah.
My entire life, I was hunting, I was ATVing, I was, all that kind of stuff in Wisconsin. We would go out in the woods all the time. So very used to driving on trails, but the trails here are definitely very different with all the rocks that you can, it feels like, and then what I'm worried about, right? The rocks are going to puncture my tire and then I'm going to be sitting in the middle of nowhere and that won't be fun. Not that I can't change a tire because I've changed tires and I've changed oil and I've done all kinds of different stuff on vehicles. I'm not completely inept. Um,
Yeah, whereas
maybe just a little bit.
driving the trails here, it's more of an issue of the trees being really close to you, is whether you can navigate through them, and then you've got the occasional large puddle that you either have to circumvent or see if you can get through it.
Yep, it's water, mud,
Yep.
and then just ruts that you have to figure out how to get through, so you don't bottom out or something like that. But that's about it. It's a little bit different here with the rocks and whatnot, but it's still fun, still a good time. And mosquitoes, that's the worst part, I think. Wisconsin.
Yes. Yes. I think
So
Minnesota and Wisconsin are a fight between the mosquito being the state bird.
I think so. I would agree with that. Yep. So again, like, come back on Friday night about the same time as this one, and we're planning to have a nice chat with Tim. He's super gracious, a really nice guy. Can't wait to have him on. It'll be great for you to meet him too, I think, Brian, which is cool. It'll be my first time actually
Yep.
meeting him. I've talked with him a lot online though, so I feel like I know him, but who knows? But yeah, appreciate those who watched. There's two people. One of them was apparently Tim, so I guess he was taking a look at what he's getting into, which is probably smart. And yeah, thanks for watching. Remember to live your life in beta, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Take care, everybody.